Yay! Hello! Happy Wednesday. I'm so glad to be here. I'm George Ilderton. I'm really excited about the topic today. Apologize if I'm a minute or two late. I took my dog for a walk, thinking she would sleep quietly on the couch next to me for this. And of course, she's like running zoomies all around the house. So I had to put her in her crate. So she's gonna miss this one. But I am so excited to be here. Let me pull up my um, Facebook so I can see any comments that anyone wants to pop in with. So this is something I'm doing every Wednesday at noon, whether you want to join live or join the replay. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Be sure to pop in and say hello. I love seeing your comments now and then obviously answering them later and any questions that you have. So, recently, I guess I've been doing this for at least a month now. And a lot of it has been very based on like numbers and being an accountant and what I see with my, like bookkeeping and advisory work. And today is a little different. We're talking about sales, which I definitely had trepidations in doing this. It's one of those things I like planned to talk about it like a couple months ago. And then when it actually came up to talk about it, I'm like, ooh, do I really want to talk about that? Like, does anyone want to listen to me talking about that? Like I had all these kind of like second guessing myself because I'm like, I'm an accountant. Who am I to talk about this? And are people going to want to listen? And all those things that come up. So let me make sure I get the comments pulled up. But suffice it to say, I'm here and we're going to talk about this, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. But why is it not letting me see the live stream? Let's see. I apologize. Let me I'm trying to pull up Facebook so that I can make sure to see it, but I'm not seeing where I'm live. Because if you're here and you want to join the conversation, I want to be sure to say hello. Okay, here we are. There it is. All right, I'll put this over to the side so I can see your comments if you're here live. And if you catch the replay, I'll answer your comments there. But I feel like this is something everyone can relate to. Sales may feel uncomfortable. So, part of that is we're all selling something. Like if we're a business owner, whether we like it or not, we're selling something, and getting comfortable with that is just makes it so much more easy. And so part of the reason I want to talk about this today and part of the reason I want to share my story and my blocks is because, I'm an accountant. I majored in accounting. My first job out of college was a local Charleston public accounting firm, and they were great. They ran it very well, and they always believed that, good accountants don't advertise because, we can definitely think of those accountants or other service providers that can kind of advertise and it feels really icky, like more money taxes or something like that, where you think of those, attorneys that just sound kind of sleazy. And so it's just kind of that like, ooh, we definitely think of those people. And so this, public accounting firm I worked for was very adamant that, if you're good at what you do and you're involved in the community, then the work will just come, because you get referrals, from other people you work with and from your clients, and just being involved in community kind of benefits everyone. So I really love that approach and took that to heart. And as I started, my own bookkeeping and my business 6 years ago, and how that's grown and kind of transitioned into this more advisory role, when I was a bookkeeper, I was kind of like, phew, I'm off the hook. I don't have to advertise, like the work came from other CPAs referring me and it came from other clients referring me, and that was great. But it gets to a point where, you are selling, like even if you're not advertising, you're still selling. I had to get on calls with potential clients, and I still get on calls with potential clients, and it's still selling, whether we like it or not. And so I think coming from that place of, just service and thinking of it as not selling, but, providing that's kind of where it all transitioned for me. I'm going to pull up my notes because I know there were some other things I wanted to mention that I didn't want to forget. And I also just felt like I was bad at sales. Like I'm an accountant, you either need my services or you don't, either we're a fit or we're not. Like, I just feel like I'm bad at it. And so now I've really kind of embraced selling and talking about sales because if I think about it in terms of when I'm buying something, I want someone to solve my problem and I want to be done with it. I want to move on. Like if I'm looking for, a water bottle for my kid to take to school, like I don't want to search for like weeks. Like I just want to find the water bottle, buy it and move on. And it's the same thing with like services or other, products. If I'm looking for someone to help me with a book, as a bookkeeper or, with social media, like helping me post things, like I just want to find someone, I can trust them and be done with it. And like, let's move on and build this relationship. So I think it's really helpful to just have that mindset going into it of like the people we're selling to, they like probably want us to be the right fit. Like they want us to solve their problem and to help them. And that just makes me breathe so much easier. Just thinking about it in that way, like, they want me to be what they need and a good fit. And so I don't have to sit here and like be a dancing monkey and try to like prove myself. It's like, let's have this genuine conversation and, see how this moves forward. So I think just that mindset is just really helpful to think about. And so it's helped me. And, I hope you can take that and use that as well. If you don't feel like you're good at sales or you feel like it's kind of yucky or whatever. And so, I had that background of working in the CPA firm and being involved in the community and just, pretty much giving value before anyone pays you a cent. And it was just kind of this thing that I always had in my mind. And recently I read the book, Go Givers, Sell More. And that's basically exactly that framework of, go givers instead of go getters or, whatever it's the play on words. But, I always thought of sales as being kind of this giving mentality. And I kind of felt like maybe I'm missing something, like, someone knows something that I don't. And, there's a lot of things that people know that I don't. But, if I feel like I'm so focused on what I don't know or the next thing or what I need, then I really lose track of like where I am with what I do. Probably a better way to say that. If I'm looking elsewhere for someone to like validate me and my sales process and what I'm doing, then like I'm always going to find someone else to tell me to do it a different way or tell me to do it, follow this template or follow this process. And I think this whole, like, I'll just call it the go-giver mentality because I feel like it's kind of like a general term that everybody uses, but we'll just use it for lack of a better term. But I feel like when we kind of use that, it really makes us feel like good about what we're doing. And so we don't have to think like, oh, someone else has the answer and I'm bad at this and I need to have, this funnel or do this strategy or do this. And it's really about like, how can you give and support your people first before they pay you a dime? And then, how can you build on that relationship to support them? And let me just look at my notes. I think, if we love what we do and we're good at what we do and we are so enthusiastic about showing up and talking about it, then it makes sales so much easier because like I said at the beginning, like we're always selling something. And so just having that be the framework going forward and not being like, okay, now I'm selling, like have that mentality just makes it so much easier in my mind. And I think this is, great if you are product-based or service-based, but figuring out how you provide value, how you give to your community before anyone pays you. And the book I talked about has a quote that says, your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. And I love that. And I love to think about like energy exchanges and everything being, kind of this like even exchange of energy. And so if we're just showing up, online, or if we're at a pop-up somewhere, or, there's all ways we can show up and sell for our business. But if we're just showing up as you need this and this is why you need me, that's when it comes off as the very sleazy, not sales type that we like. So I think, just being small business owners, the more connections we can make in our community, one, feels better, and two, is really going to serve us a lot more. And so, I really encourage you to think about how you can do this in your business, and how can you connect before you convert. So it's really about like giving and either volunteering or giving free information or calls or a free trial, or some way that you're kind of serving your people. And I know with products it's a little bit different, but really building that trust with them, especially if you're a product-based business and they come in and they want to be able to like see and touch and feel, and do you have testimonials posted, like anything like that, I think is just so helpful to really help people feel that connection. And it's not just like we're being sold to, boom, boom, boom. So that's really what, kind of the gist of all of this is. Let me see. So if you pop on and you catch the replay, let me know if you have any questions. But yeah, Sarah, if you're here and you want to say anything, feel free. I'm going to take a sip of my water. So I'll give just some personal examples for me. If you want to hop on and say anything with what you do or how it applies to you, I'd love to hear it. But for me, with the background that I have, I just feel like this Facebook group is a great place to share information. And I know there's tons of Facebook groups out there, and there's like a Charleston Women in Business one, and I really like that. And it's great for people to be like, oh, do you know a good place to buy this, or a good space to host this, or just different connections. And I think it's great. And so this one I wanted to kind of set up to be like all those questions that business owners have that they don't really have anyone to ask the question to. And so part of my like go-giver kind of mentality here and giving support and providing value is this group, and really inviting people to join in and comment and ask questions, and not to be afraid to like get support that they need, because I think it's just so important. Even if you're a new business or a seasoned business, like there's always new challenges and there's always new questions and things that come up. And so I think this is just a really great place for that, and that's why I wanted to create it. And so I want to be here every Wednesday and provide free trainings and value, and you can ask questions. And I also want to give other people exposure. So if you're in the group, please share your stuff. I want to have like kind of a collaboration every month and bring somebody in that we talk to, that's either another business owner or someone else that we can kind of learn from, just so that y'all can get more information and that person can get more exposure. If you'll notice on Saturdays, I always have a post about promoting yourself. I mean, you can promote yourself any day in here, but I think Saturdays are just kind of a fun, like, it's just like a fun little free day. So if you have anything that you want to promote, please feel free to do it. I really want you to promote what you're doing in your business and just kind of celebrate your magic and what you do, and have like a really nice place. We're a small group, so I feel like it's a really safe place to ask questions and get support. And then I also like to do like a monthly coffee talk. I used to do it more often, and then I kind of like fell off the train. So I'm going to get back into that, because I love coffee, and I think that's just something that we can all connect with. And so talking to other business owners and finding out like what kind of coffee they like to drink, where do they like to drink it, it's just so interesting. It just gets like a peek into their lives about it's just such a personal thing that most of us do every day. I mean, even if you don't drink coffee, it's like tea is a good thing, or everybody kind of has their own morning ritual. And I think it's just a fun way to A, promote the business, and B, get to know them and just make connections that we didn't know that we had. Let's see. So these are just ways I like to kind of promote and give and support, and they don't even, cost any money. And, I love showing up here every week and giving information and hoping that y'all can take it and run with it. Hey, Sarah, yay. Sarah says, hey, I love that quote from the book you mentioned. Thank you. It's a good book. Go Giver, Sell More. And it just really spoke to me. I've heard before about kind of the even exchange. Like if you want your income to be like a certain number, then kind of think about that exchange of services that you would be providing to the world. And, we can obviously get in our minds about like, well, am I worth that? Or is this worth that? Like we can have those blocks and conversations that kind of come up and need to be worked through. But I think that just thinking that, thinking of that energy exchange and like what you're putting out there and how does it exchange for money, is just such a great way to think about sales and what we're doing. And she says, I definitely think you made some great points, because what about the people outside the circle of direct referrals? Those businesses will likely be looking online for a good fit for the service or good they're looking for. Promoting your business is a great way to start, is a great way to get others who might not know where to start. Yes, exactly. Because we know so many people, like if somebody asked me like for a certain type of referral, like I might automatically think of someone, and then there might be someone that I'm just like, oh yeah, they do that, don't they? So I've definitely recently tried to, whenever I see on these Facebook groups, like I'm looking for this, or I'm looking for this, I really try to think of someone either that does that or that might know someone. Like someone was asking about a wedding makeup artist, and my neighbor, Sarah Johnston, she does wedding flowers. So I was like, Sarah, do you know anyone that does this? Like maybe she doesn't do it, but maybe she knows someone and can make that connection. And I think that these groups in the online space is just such a great way to do that. Because, back when I started in the public accounting world, there wasn't really, there maybe, I think there was Facebook, but it was not like it was today. I think it was, what was it called? The thing before Facebook, but MySpace or whatever, something like that. So we had these like in-person mixers where it would be like accountants, bankers, real estate agents. And it's like, okay, these are the people that are good referrals for each other. And it was so contained and small. And so now just with the internet, it's just so big, and it's just so, it's kind of overwhelming, but it's so nice that it's so easy to make those connections. And like someone was asking for, some type of attorney for a very specific type of law. And I was like, well, I don't know anyone that does that type of law, but I know this attorney and she's great. So maybe she knows somebody. And so I think it's just like such a great way to, it's like selling, but not selling, it just like feels good to give back and just like serve other people before you expect anyone to refer someone to you or send work your way. Yeah, I just think it's just a beautiful even exchange. And that's kind of just what my point was with this conversation today. I like kind of what I call it, the number one way to increase sales and to implement it now. So that's basically it. Like I always talk about, there's no like right way to do this, and there's no like specific certain way to do these things. I feel like with the work that I do, people come in and they're like, just tell me what to do, just give me an answer. And it's like, well, it depends, like just because something looks good on paper doesn't mean that it feels good in your business and is sustainable for you. And so I just love thinking about sales that way too. I worked with a client yesterday, and he literally said, you're the numbers girl. You tell me, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, well, just because, this is the numbers and this makes sense. Like you could build your business based on what looks good on paper. And then like a year from now, want to burn it all down because you're like so overwhelmed and sick of it. So, that's really not the point to me, is to have like a specific, and definitely, like when you're selling, you probably have like a framework that you use, definitely like a process that you move people through. But the conversation today is more about like a general overview view of, the mindset to approach it, my take on it and how to make it feel good. And then just kind of use that and see what happens. And obviously you've got a framework and the strategy and the steps. And that's something I love working on with people, because I think it's not something that they think of accountants normally doing, but we have like such a great, I'm in such a great position because I see so many different businesses, and it's obviously everything is like confidential and everything, but I can see like different ideas and we can kind of all use those. And, it's not like there's like this big secret out there, but, it's just kind of like doing what feels good and collaborating. And, everybody, it's like the quote that I love, a rising tide raises all boats. And so it's just that mentality. And it just feels good. So, if you have any other questions or comments, I'm not going to make this super long, but that was just kind of my point of, how to increase your sales. I mean, you can just do it right now. Like, it's not like you have to go out and be like, I have to change my website and have to update my email marketing and I have to do this and that. And it's just like literally just like give more and make more connections and provide value to your community and who you support. That's literally it, and it's free. So if you have more questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. I do have a free call open tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, it's Friday. I'll put a link below for my calendar because these have been booking out a couple weeks in advance, but I saw there's an opening on Friday morning if anyone wants to jump on a free call. I call them honesty calls because it's just a chance for business owners to sit and take an honest look at their business. And I like to focus on what is working in your business and what you love, because I think what you appreciate appreciates. I didn't come up with that saying either, but I think it's just a beautiful way to like take an honest look in your business, and focus on creating more of the good in it, because sometimes our businesses become this like runaway train and we're like, well, we just did this because somebody said to do this and now it's like moving in this direction. So if you want an honesty call, I'm going to drop them below. I think they're just really fun and very eye-opening, and it feels good to offer this to people for free 30 minutes. So unless there's anything else, I hope y'all have an amazing rest of your week. And like I said, I'm going to be doing these every Wednesday for the foreseeable future. I've got lots of topics planned out. If there's anything in particular you want to hear, please let me know and we will figure out how to get it worked in, or if we need to bring somebody on to talk about it. But thank you so much for being here, watching. I so appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah. It's always so fun talking to you here in this way. But I hope y'all have a great rest of your day. And thanks so much.